One thing all Madden pros have in common is the ability to read the defense like Tom Brady. They know what the defense is doing before they even snap the ball. So in today's video, I'm going to break down my top 3 tips to help you read the defense like a pro. YouTube, what is up? It is your boy Duke, back here from sportsgamers.com. And guys, after watching this video, I'm going to have you looking like prime Peyton Manning out here, throwing dots, dissecting the defense. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'm about to give you my top 3 tips for reading the defense. We're going to be focusing on pre-snap in this video. Pre-snap means essentially we're going to be looking at tells that the defense is giving us before we snap the ball. Now, if you can give me 500 likes on this video, I'll post another video going over my tips for post-snap reads of the defense, which means after we snap the ball. So, first tip is going to be based upon reading if the defense is in man or zone pre-snap. Now, in order to do this, you need to come out in a certain type of formation. Only certain types of formations really are effective of allowing you to do this. And before I get into those specific formations, I do want to remind you guys that if you want more content like this, I do daily Madden 25 videos, tips and gameplays, as well as some college football 25 content. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, drop me a like, comment on the video. Let's get it. So you're going to need essentially some formation that has some sort of element of compression. Now, if you don't know what compression means, that basically means you have one of your receivers, at least one, on one side of the field, if not both, lined up close or in tight. So here we have an example, the gun normal Y off close out of the Eagles playbook. You'll see that this outside right receiver is lined up close or in tight. What that does is that gives us a read. So basically any formation that's not completely spread out. So you could have like a trips tight end, a gun bunch, a gun tight, a close formation. Anything like that will work. So like this normal Y off close, that's fine. That's what we were in. You could have like the bunch nasty, the trips tight end, tight Y off weak. Any of these formations will work. And let me explain to you guys why. So let's get back in this normal Y off close. So what you're going to want to focus on before you snap the ball to know if the defense is in man or zone is the close side of the formation, which is the formation where the receiver lines up close. So here, that's the right. If you'll notice, you'll see that on that side of the field, the right side of the field, you got that outside right corner. He's lined up a good 5 yards outside of that receiver. That indicates the defense is in zone, okay? Because if they are in man against compression type formations, you'll see like here for audible demand, they're going to line up directly over the top of your receiver. Now this is why this is key, guys. Say we were in a formation, let's get back to zone. Say we're in a formation like, like just a completely spread out formation. Let me audible to one here. Spread flex, right? We don't get any tell because all of our receivers are spread out, so we can't really read what the defense is doing. Here you guys can see they're in cover 4, but because our receivers are split out so wide, we can't really tell, if they're in man or zone because the receivers are spread out so wide. It doesn't matter. It could be in man or zone. Here audible, I can audible to man or zone. It doesn't matter. It's going to look the same. Whereas when we're in these compression formations where the receiver lines up in close or tight, again, it's very obvious. You look at that right side of the formation where the compression is, that outside right corner, it's lined up to the outside, in zone every time. If, they audible to man or they come out of man, he's going to be right over the top of that receiver on the compression side. So that is how you read man or zone. Now that you know that, what about more specific coverages to know the difference between, say, like a cover 3, a cover 2, a cover 4? Let's take a look at that. So my second tip is going to be reading the depth of the safeties, or the alignment, I should say, of the safeties. This is going to give you a much better idea of what you might be facing, guys. So you can see here, we have a single high safety. Now, when you're playing good players, most of the time they're not going to run these style of defenses where you have a single high safety, because this kind of gives away most of the time what's going on. Now, when you see this, it kind of indicates one of two things. Most likely some sort of cover 3 or cover 1. If you have a single high safety, that means that this guy is going to be responsible for the middle, like kind of inside third area. Again, cover 1 or cover 3. And I can tell like here, this is probably going to be cover 3 because other than the single high safety, which indicates cover 1 or cover 3, then I'm looking at the corners, and these corners are giving more of a zone look. You guys can see this guy's more of a line up to the outside, shaded outside of the receiver. As here you can tell the difference in a cover 1. I still do have that single high safety, but now you guys can see the corners, they're going to be wanting to be pressed up over the top of the receivers, lined up directly over the top of them, getting a nice jam on them in order, to just have better positioning. So that's going to be a single high safety. Now guys, when you see two high safeties like this, you have a lot more possibilities. The defense could potentially be in anything, to be quite honest. If they have in base line, they could potentially still be in cover 3, right? But most of the time when you see two high safeties, you kind of know most likely you're going to be getting some sort of cover 4 or cover 2. This year you could also be getting cover 2 man or cover 0. All these are different coverages, and all of them have different tells. Now I do want to preface this by saying if somebody has on baseline or a specific coverage shell, they could make everything kind of look like one shell. Like for instance, if we were on cover 4 shell with default alignment, we could kind of make all of our defenses look like cover 4. So there definitely are some tells, but there are also ways the defense can kind of try to throw you off. So let me go over everything you're going to want to pay attention to. So the first thing I look at is not only the alignment of the safeties, but the depth. So you guys can see here in cover 4, this the safety on the left, he's backed up from the line of scrimmage. You really want to look at how far he's off the line of scrimmage. So at this point, he's a good 12 yards. If you're looking to become a better Madden 25 player and win more games, check out sportsgamers.com. This is where I post all my premium content. You get all my offensive and defensive schemes, ebooks, weekly tips, blitzes, money plays, bombs, and more. I have all the best content available at the cheapest prices available anywhere. Sign up today for as little as $9.95. Click the link in the description. I also pinned it in the comments. Let's win more games and dominate together, boys. Whereas the safety's on the right, he's about a 10-yard depth. Now, if I audible to different coverage, you're going to see that this will change. So here we're in cover 2. Now, in cover 2, you're going to see that the safeties, they're further back. Now, both of them are a good 15 yards off the line of scrimmage, right? This indicates cover 2, whereas again, cover 4, you got the one about 12, the other about 10, right? Now, what about cover 0? So cover 0, you're going to see that both of the safeties are lined up about 10 yards off the line of scrimmage. So far, cover 2, both of them are about 15 yards off. Cover 4, one's about 12, the other is about 10. Cover 0, then both of them are about 10. Cover 0 essentially means man coverage, no safeties over the top. Most of the time, this is going to be a heavy, like 6-man blitz, right? What about cover 2 man? So cover 2 man is going to be man coverage over the top with the safeties, right? The safeties are going to be in deep zones. And in this situation, it looks pretty similar to cover 2, whereas these safeties are lined up about 15 yards off the line of scrimmage, just kind of like cover 2. However, there is one big difference, and that is the last tip I want to go over, which is the depth of the outside corners specifically. The depth of the outside corners is going to give away a lot when the safeties are not giving away quite as much. So, you guys can see here, in cover 2 man, these outside corners, they're lined up pressed, right? They're immediately pressed. Now, if I reset the play, you will see that the one on the right, he's like 4 to 5 yards off the line of scrimmage, but these guys are both pressed. So you might be wondering, well, how can you tell the difference between cover 2 and cover 2 man, right? Let me go to cover 2, Tampa 2, any sort of cover 2 variation, it doesn't matter. You'll see that you're noticing differences here. All the corners are lined up about 4 to 5 yards off the ball. And then if we go ahead and look at this corner on the right side of the screen, on the compressed side, he's lined up to the outside of this receiver. So now you're seeing that we're kind of tying in everything together. We're able to get reads on, the defense based upon looking at the alignment of the corners based upon our formation, man or zone, the first tip. We're able to get reads upon which specific coverage they may be in by looking at the depth and the alignment of the safeties, the second tip. And then, if we're still a little bit unsure, we're able to, draw everything together because we're looking at, lastly, our third tip, the depth of the corners, specifically the outside corners. So that is really the best way overall to read your defense. I want to show you one more thing, which is a little bonus, trips. Trips formations, in my opinion, are probably the easiest ones to identify this stuff from because they really make you give away your coverage. Trips, tight end flex, trips, tight end whatever. In these types of formations, you have 3 receivers on one side of the field, and then the other side is just really the tight end, and the tight end is lined up compressed or in close. So we have 3 receivers on one side, and then the opposite side is a close compressed tight end, right? So in doing this, it is super easy to read the defense because they have to give away their alignment one way or the other. First of all, the trip side. If you ever see 3 corners lined up on the trip side, you pretty much know, with a few exceptions, that is man coverage, right? The other thing about it is, just looking at the tight end side, when you don't see any DBs lined up outside of the tight end, again, you know it's man coverage. Now, there is one exception to this that I want to show you guys real quickly, and that's if somebody is using a cover 0 shell. So if somebody's using a cover 0 shell, they could come out in zone coverage, and to change your zone shell on the play call screen, you see the right stick, you just hit the right stick, you guys can see it literally says shell cover 0 under the play calls. You just flick the right stick till you get to cover 0. You know, now we could come out in some sort of zone, right? And it would line up as if it was man. You guys can see this looks like man because there's no DBs lined up to the outside of the tight end, and then there's 3 DBs lined up over the trips. So there is that one exception, like I was mentioning earlier with the shells. However, if you do recognize somebody is doing this, it is actually, it's pretty easy to attack once you recognize it because their zones are out of position. You see there's a deep zone running across the field. There's essentially no deep zone on the right side of the screen. There's really only one flat zone. So they're just outnumbered, going to the right. You could just simply run like a corner flat type combo. Something very simple. You can motion the running back out of the backfield. There's lots of little things you could do, and they would be screwed. So I will say you got to be aware of the shell feature, but this is the best way to read the defense pre-snap. Hope this helped you guys. If it did, make sure to smash that like button. Remember, 500 likes will do the post-snap. Till next time, it's your boy Duke, and I'm out of here.